Welcome to Beaver Politics. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to Truth Through Discourse. Tonight we freestyle it. Usually we have conversations and we talk about politics and the spin of the week and what's going on. And I give the guests a chance to get up in the box and have a conversation, talk about what's on their mind. If they don't have anything to talk about, I really want to talk about the power of protest and what people are doing, what the benefits are, and why we need to do it and why it's so important. With that, I'm going to open up the boxes and I'm going to add my friend Happy because he's ready to go.
Oh, hello. Howdy doody.
Good. How are you?
Oh, settling in nicely. Today was rough. I had a lot of snow.
It
Lots
was
of snow.
brutal. Hey, you
It
guys
was
got your
really hard.
butts kicked.
Yes, well, and we were, so I was in a conference, a sales conference in Toronto, and last night we're like, okay, should we try to wait it there? Well, the kids were like, should we try to wait it out? One of the guys wanted, I was like, no, we got to go. Well, they wanted to go to the casino. I was like, no, we got to go. And so we got on the road, and they're like, "Oh, it's really bad. It's really bad." And like I'm like, "It's not bad. Keep going, keep going." And they're like, "Nah." So we're going. We get back to Ottawa, and like 2 hours later, the big storm hits, and there's like inches of storms. We wake up, there's like feet of snow outside, and I'm just so glad that I was able to persuade these kids, these younger lads, into going. Like, they wanted a party in Toronto, right? And I was just like, no, we're gonna go. Like we're gonna go, or we're gonna be here for like 3 days.
So good the wise owl showed up.
I'm sorry, but I'm
I
trying to read the conversation in the chat and listen to
Yeah.
Happy. And Carlos is like, "Our tax dollars hard at work." And I'm like, what is he going on about tax dollars for?
who?
Carlos, I think
Carlos.
he was doing.
But it's funny because his grammar is off. He used
Oh, I thought that
ARE.
was Carlos
Right.
Spicy
So
Mayo.
it's hilarious. I said, yes, they are hard at work. Hard at work with, with our strong society.
You know what's cool is that I set up. I'm right now. Like when you went live, I was just in the process of doing some research. Like I've been really busy this week, so it's nice we didn't have anything planned. Because I'm going through training, and so uh, it's been busy. But like I've been using AI, so I pay for Chat GPT 4 Plus, and I use it to engineer certain things like search engines. Now I'm trying to get it to seek out like certain things, and it's helping me get like a news feed organized and stuff. It's really cool.
Oh,
Like
neat.
way like integrating AI to like curate a news feed to focus on certain like things like for me it's like green innovation and technology and like positive sustainable development goals and stuff like that. So like that's the news feed that I'm trying to engineer on this particular page. So it's quite interesting. They have like 6 different apps that you can use, so it's nice.
Wild. So, anybody have anything on their mind
I do, but
that they
it's
want
not
to talk
that.
about? Yeah, it
It's
has to be appropriate, Smart.
yeah,
That's
it's
hilarious.
not. It's nothing that I can talk about on here.
Life,
Sorry.
liberty, and the pursuit of equal opportunity at the pursuit of happiness. Uh,
Like,
Liberal surge in the popular vote polling that's coming out
woo!
now with Ecos and what was the other one? Angus Reid.
It's looking good for Liberals federally. I'm very nervous about Ontario.
Yeah, me too.
Me too.
Oh my God, I
I,
can't
I
believe that. I cannot believe that he was allowed to call an election right now, based around what's going on. Like, this is an
who
absolute
called for the election?
absurdity. Like, why would we want that
He did.
instability? Like he called an emergency election to do what? He didn't need extra time with this mandate.
He
This,
wants more instability.
What he wants is a larger majority. But for some reason, this isn't enough. Like he wants to wipe like liberalism and leftists out of Ontario.
Oh,
Did anybody hear about Germany today?
no. What's
What
going on in
happened?
Germany?
German chancellor suggested going into a state of emergency after what Trump said about Ukraine.
Fuck, we're done.
I don't know
Oh, that's
about.
yes, 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 yes,
It's
yes.
pretty serious, though, right?
It's
Yeah,
very
I wouldn't say we're
serious.
done, but
I mean, to tell you the truth, I honestly thought Joe Biden should have done that 6 months ago.
What?
I
Yeah.
don't know if it would have
He's not allowed though,
flew.
right? Like you can't just unilaterally do those
Maybe,
kinds of
yeah,
things in the
because
United
you
States.
is it because of the Budapest memorandum or something? Like, is
No,
that
I
why
think
they're
it
not
has
allowed to pull
it.
out?
Like I said, I think certain things are like acts of Congress and acts of Senate. I'm not too sure, like familiar, but like the president would present it to like Congress, and then Congress would vote on it on whether it's
Yeah,
good or
just
not,
I
and
just
then the
want to
president.
enter. Marshy just asked a question. She asked what this was about, and I
Oh, I
think this
was
was about.
the Budapest memorandum because I know I read something about that, but I'm not 100% sure as to how that would work with them pulling out. Like
Right.
that whole thing.
Sorry, the Budapest memorandum in like with regards to Ukraine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ukraine and Russia. Like I know that there's the Budapest memorandum was signed in '94 of December with a couple of countries, including Russia and Ukraine, and they had to stop the. I don't know what. Like I read it, but it's all like jumbled in my brain because I'm hearing so
I'm
many
reading
things
it
about
right
Russia.
now. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a non-proliferation treaty for of nuclear weapons.
Oh, okay, that's what it was. I read it wrong, maybe.
I think what they were talking about, why they wanted to pull out or go into a state of emergency today, was they were talking along the lines of the Ukraine and what Trump was planning to do with Russia, and that the Ukraine wasn't involved in any meaningful conversations. That that the U.S. is just negotiating with Russia.
Hmm.
Okay,
That's
Carlos.
absolutely, and that's absolutely seems like what the case is right now. Like because Trump is negotiating from a position of power, which is you know it, his
Thank you,
style,
Treaty
right?
Birder.
And like um, he's going to try to make the weaker person concede because the ultimate thing that matters to him is who would win if shit goes down. And that's what he's going to look at. He's like, obviously Russia could nuke you and you'd be done. That's the end of the story. You have to give up. You have to concede.
Yeah,
um, and he's going to make them give up. And we called this. How I don't know, like how long ago
long
were we
time ago.
talking
Yeah.
about this? We were talking about that. When Trump comes in, this is exactly what he's going to do. He's going to make Ukraine give up land, and he's going to call that a peace deal when it's capitulation, right? Like to
I
preserve
kind of
life.
feel like it's just a small piece. When I'm looking at the whole play of what he's got going on now since he's got in, I feel like like he was in 2 minutes and Putin was saying he has to pay his debts.
Did
And
you
I think the debt is to create a world war.
Did
I
you
think
see
that's the
Netanyahu's
debt.
face? Like when you look at Netanyahu, the way he looked at Trump when Trump talked about Gaza, and and you're just like, Netanyahu's like, I can't believe this guy is saying this shit out loud. I'm the good guy again. Like,
When the fucking president of the United States makes Benjamin Netanyahu
Look like
look
the
like a decent fucking human being, you know there's a goddamn
I
problem with the world.
couldn't
you
believe
know
it.
it.
Netanyahu looked over and was like he smirked. He was like, and I was like, even he knows.
Yep.
And
Yep.
Trump didn't even flinch. He doesn't care.
Poker game, you never show all your fucking hands. You don't tell the fucking hands out loud. You don't say the quiet parts out loud. You leave it to yourself if you're gonna be a fucking
Well, in
dictator.
poker, you don't show your hand unless you got the nuts.
Okay, Glass Dolphin says In the Modi presser today, he was asked Russia.
Salish.
Uh, Pardon me.
Sorry, my ADD got in there.
In the Modi presser today, he was asked what Russia would have to sacrifice. He
Nothing.
did the weave.
Everything.
The only thing Russia was going to have to sacrifice was not continuing their assault.
Yeah.
Right. But that didn't last very long, did it? Because didn't they take out Crimea? I think it was.
Oh yeah, no,
Oh,
we're talking about the current one, aren't we?
Yeah.
oh, I'm
Like
talking about the old one. I'm
yeah,
sorry, I was
that
thinking
you're
of the old
absolutely
one.
right. Then, like the old treaty that was signed was null and void the moment that Russia annexed that territory. They had they had no leg to stand on, and then they're like,
No.
oh, we didn't want NATO encroaching on our borders, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's an argument because that's what the conservatives kept saying, but there's like 5 NATO countries already on their border: Lithuania,
Yeah.
Estonia.
Yeah.
I think I saw today that not Denmark or Norway has been part of. It was a founding member of NATO, and
Denmark.
Yeah.
they're right there too. And then Hungary by water border or whatever, like like they're only separated by a small body of water, not an ocean. And so like I'm like, fuck, that doesn't even make sense anymore. Like, and we bought that, and then they put a
Did
hundred.
you?
Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. Did you hear Steve Bannon yesterday? He was speaking with someone, and they said, how did he say this again? He said Canada's in for a huge blow because Russia's over here and China's over here and Canada's in the middle, and we're going to be the prize.
Yeah. Well, I again, I don't want to be like the "I told you" guy, but like
But you want to be the I
But you
told you
will.
guy.
I
But
definitely
you
did.
will be the I
But
told
I
you
definitely said
guy.
that Russia has certain interests in things that are Canadian, like Canadian um, resources, like uh, in particular, probably oil, and a lot of that northern hemisphere, right? Like
I must
the
interject.
passage.
They're not Canadian resources. Sorry, I don't mean to be controversial, but for clarity, they are Indigenous resources that are shared with Canada.
And that's something we're going to have to keep working on language. That's not natural to us to always say. And we've got to wrap our brains around that one.
Oh, totally. And I mean, like I say this in complete kindness
Yeah.
as we're on our path of reconciliation. So I think
Fair.
we're not saying,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's just, it is a shared resource and that was the intent.
100% it should be shared.
Yeah.
Thank you.
100% the profits and any kind of money engineered from those resources should be firstly distributed amongst the people of the nation before any oligarch sees
Right.
it.
Sorry, I got told the other day that the resources belong to Canada, and I said, well, funny enough, who do you think Canada belongs to?
Yes, and for the purpose of the argument, you're right. If we're getting semantic
Yeah.
amongst Canadians, they're
But these
definitely.
people were just being ignorant people. That's what they were being, right? So, I mean, it wasn't an argument worth having, but, they.
I must apologize to Treaty Six. Sorry, but when I do speak like with broad terms to include people outside of our algorithm and outside of how we believe things should transpire, because of course I do believe in the same things you do.
Yes,
But
but those
for the
broad
purpose of
terms
for the
to
purpose
include,
of forwarding conversation with people who do not align like we do,
yes. And
uh, and to
if I
chip
may,
away at that armor, sometimes I do use colonized terminology. Um, but no, I do concede that I do believe that the resources belong to the land. Um,
Right.
thank you.
I
And
mean, we are all learning to uncolonize the colonization that has happened through the
I
years.
do
And
no,
it's,
definitely that I'm with. I'm definitely with that. But I think that sometimes, along with other different political things, I think to chink away at the armor, like to you know to continually hit that armor and to break through, I think, we need to camouflage ourselves and be able to um, illustrate how we're the same, and
Oh,
then
absolutely.
tear down that barrier from the inside, or from behind that wall, and say, like, I don't know why you would have anything against this, because I am here and this is me, and you have nothing against me, right? And then we say, this is us, and this is what we believe, and
Yeah.
you really
Oh,
do
yeah,
believe
absolutely.
things, right? Like, they do, so a lot of the time, believe the same things, like, it's just that,
Um,
We word things really.
yeah, it's just they get a little, not, I don't want to say stupid, but they get a little, like, protective of like entitlement and privilege, and it makes it difficult to make headway when people are put in a position where they're.
Happy, you're talking about fragility. They're
No, no,
white
yes,
femininity.
absolutely, but that, like, that doesn't matter. Like, once somebody puts up those walls of defense, right, it makes it difficult to make headway when you're trying to make headway. And I'm
But
not saying you have to make deals with the devil. I'm just talking politically talking here, right? Politically talking. Like Wab Canoe, when you look at him and you look at some of the things and you're like, I don't know really. And you're like, oh, I see he's trying to make headway. So he has to concede to the other 50% of his demographic, right? The people who didn't vote for him. So he gains more credibility, gains more of a foothold, isn't able to make bigger changes in his second mandate. Oh no.
yeah,
oh,
and
maybe
that's the
she just
thing.
dropped down.
It's the fact that we have to tippy toe around these people
Yeah.
speaking safe words, and honestly, I'm freaking sick of it. If it's a problem with you and you don't understand the wording, that's a you
I'm
issue,
with you on that one
not
too.
me
Like,
issue.
I mean, I'm with you there too. Like, if we're throwing, if we're throwing and we're throwing, it's good. Like, I'm okay with that too, and that's fine. I'm okay with either ones. I wasn't saying one is better than the other, and I appreciate the corrections where possible.
Thank you,
But
Desiree.
in the truth and discourse, I was just kind of explaining the method of my insanity, I guess, is
Just
what it
being a
was.
cranky old
Totally.
bitch. That's what I'm being.
So I want to ask you,
Mm.
Smarsh, did and Happy, when you saw Pierre Polyev this week out, where was that, in the Yukon?
Yeah, he was in Nunavut,
None
Iqaluit.
of
Nunavut.
it.
No, he was in
Um,
Iqaluit, was he?
Equivalent, yeah.
and he was announcing
Equivalent?
this base. Say it again. Sorry, I want to get the right pronunciation.
Equivalent?
I
I'm
think.
not sure either.
Um, but he was saying about this transatlantic base that he was talking about, and it was interesting because the fella that Trump put in as, oh shoot, what's his name? He just had a press conference today, and he was talking about that base that he and Putin wanted put together.
Going through, are you talking about the pipeline that he's talking about?
No, well, they could be planning a pipeline from
Okay,
from there. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
so here's the thing.
Yes, Glass Dolphin.
Military base in Iqaluit, and he's talking about an
Equivalent.
Arctic. He's talking about an Arctic defense in a base up north.
Yeah,
Yes, but here's the
and
thing. Here's the thing about that. People seem to forget in 2022, 2023-ish, in that, in one of those years, I can't really remember. I'd have to dig up the article for you, Miss Radical. But the thing is, they can't actually build on that land because they got their land back in 2022, 2023. So they would have to go to the federal government, and unfortunately for them, the federal government cannot step in because once it's handed back over to the indigenous people, land that puts into place, and the Inuits have final say. So it's not going to happen. He can try all he wants. He can kick his heels and he can do whatever he thinks he can. It ain't gonna happen on the when
I
they have
think
their land back.
Hargath during his speech today
Hagstaff?
brought it up. Yep, Hagstaff brought that up today in his speech,
Hagstaff
which
is
I
a
thought was
is a.
very interesting.
I have very colorful words for everybody in Hagstaff.
Yeah,
And
just was a standout again to me that Pierre Poilievre is doing it and Hagstaff is talking about it, right? It just shows again that bootlicker mentality.
yeah, it to me. I don't feel I feel confident that they're not going to be able to build that base on there. So I know from what I've read, it's pretty black and white. If they say no and they go to the federal government to say, "Hey, we want this land," and the Inuit have already said no, the government of Canada is going to be like, "Well, they said no. It's their land back." You know, there's
My only worry is what they're going to try to offer them to sway them because I know it's very hard to get things and stuff out there, and
I'll have to send you the.
please do.
I'll send you that information because they have a pretty good deal with the government to get it back because they
Good.
get like 857 million for the first year to get the land back to what it needs to be.
Wow.
Like I said, my numbers could
Oh,
be off.
small boy Marie just said, just shared TikTok on court's rulings. Canadians do not have the rights to land, only Indigenous do. Thank you, small boy
Woo!
Marie.
Thank
Fantastic.
you. Oh fucking times.
That was stressing me out a little when I saw that. I can't lie. It
That's what I
was.
was trying to tell you the other night, Happy.
Hey,
I tried telling you that the other night.
nice. That's good news. Hmm.
So, and in Alberta,
Oh
they're
god.
changing up AISH. Any thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
I'm sorry. What was that?
Smarsh?
What was that in Alberta?
They're changing AISH, and they're making, I think it's another, like they're taking AISH recipients and they're putting them in another program. So, if you can work or if they feel like you have the ability to work, you can go on to AISH.
Yeah, so basically what they're doing is they're breaking it down into two subcategories, the people that can't work and the people that can work, but you have to reapply even though you're already up to be reevaluated by the H team to see if you can't work, and they have to look at all your documents and whatever, and yada yada yada, and this and that
And
and
they
the
have
third.
their own doctors, right? It's not
Yeah,
your
they.
doctor, it's their doctors you have to see.
I don't think so. You can have your own doctor vouch for you, I do believe,
I don't
but
know. Check
again,
that, Smarsh,
Are
because
you,
they
ta-
said something about their own doctors when I read it today.
are you
yeah.
saying AH like Alberta Health?
No, 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 no. Age like assisted income for the severely handicapped. That's what it is.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what the
And
acronym was.
I'm gonna
no,
let Katie up because she's also this affects her a lot. So,
this
hi,
affects me and
Katie.
Katie. Hi,
Yep.
Hi.
Katie.
Yeah. So you don't have to reapply. They might,
You don't have to reapply. Okay.
no, you don't have to reapply. They haven't said yet if they're going to be reevaluating all of us or not. That's possibly on the table, but we just don't know anything right now.
With Danielle
A-
Smith, nobody knows.
And
Yeah.
they're gonna give you a different rate if you can work. Like it sounded
Yeah,
to
Yeah.
me
they're gonna.
like it would be a lower rate.
Yeah, exactly. That's the scary part. And there's no support services for employment. They're not increasing
No,
that at all. They're basically just
I'm.
saying if we think you can work, you're being thrown to the wind.
And
Yeah,
if
pretty
you
much.
leave, I thought I saw something in the
Quebec's like
writing
that
that
too.
if you left your job, you wouldn't
Yeah,
be
yeah.
welcome to be on the
If you
program.
have if you have to quit or you're fired or whatever, yeah, you can't just go back.
You have to be laid off.
Yeah, you have to be laid off. I got laid off because I was disabled, but that's because I didn't disclose first, so that could be
A lot
considered
of
as
people
firing
don't.
me.
My roommate wouldn't disclose that he was he had a motorcycle accident that left him chronically like in pain, and that so they had prescribed him the famous OXY, you know, and so he got kind of bounced back and forth in that, but he never was able to get rid of the pain. So he would work for 2 or 3 weeks sometimes, but then he would have to go like 4 weeks without working or 5 weeks without working because he was in that much pain. His like bones were completely shot, and he had like these these like implants that he was supposed to have had removed, but he was like super scared to go under or something. Like he just had like this reaction and it kind of ran away from it. Long story short, every time he would go and work and get a paycheck, they would kick him off ODSP.
Yeah.
Or not ODS, sorry, he wasn't on the Ontario version. He was on Quebec side version, and they
Yeah.
would kick him off, right, and say that he wasn't eligible anymore, and he would have to explain it all over again, and then
And
it
then
would take 2 months to get a paycheck, right? Like, so he was constantly trying to do that because he felt worthless if he wasn't working, but then like he would be killed like on
What
his
really
death.
annoys me about this AISH piece is many, many people in Alberta and many people that have needs would like to work.
Yeah.
I would love to
So
work.
it's super
Absolutely.
insulting to me. Like my daughter was on AISH and she has liver disease. And when she's doing well, which is the majority of the time, she's doing really well and she can thrive. But those times when she's not doing well, you know, that's when you need that AISH piece to kick in for you, like a UBI.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is,
No.
like, oh,
Oh, I was just because the part that's really confusing about this is it would have been so easy because right now we're allowed to make up to $1,000 a month penalty free.
How
And
actually,
much?
it's
then,
higher than that. It's a little bit more
yeah,
than that.
now it is higher. I haven't seen a recent chart, but
2,000?
It's 1100.
1,000. Yeah, it's now 1,100. Okay,
Oh.
and then it's cut back gradually depending on how you work. Like they actually do encourage us to work if we can.
Yes,
Yeah, of
Right.
course.
Um,
absolutely.
but all they had to do was increase that amount, and it would have encouraged people to work more if they could.
I
I
Right.
don't
think,
know one person who cannot work who doesn't want to work. Like somebody who is
Exactly.
on disability, in particular, like they want to work, they just
Yes,
cannot. It's a big difference.
absolutely. I have a disorder. I actually have to go get neurological testing again because I have these moments where at any point in time my body just gives out and I hit the floor like a sack of potatoes and I don't know why. It just happens. And it actually happened in August of 23. It hasn't happened since. It usually, I can usually tell when it's coming on. I came in from the back door of my house and I got over the lip of the step and I went to go reach for something and down I went and smoked my head off a toy box. My knees hit the floor, my glasses fell, and I woke up and I had no clue what happened.
Oh,
That's not
No.
good.
And they expect me to, and everyone's like, oh, you should go to work. I'm like, do you not realize if I go to work and that happens and I just buckle like a sack of potatoes and something, God forbid, triggers it, and what are they going to do? They're going to tell me that I'm a liability and I
yeah.
can't work because of that. So it's scary.
I don't think like I don't think working is really like we as a society put this emphasis on working, right? Like there are so many more contributions to society
Hmm.
that a person can offer aside from working, like from different artistic expressions, different teachings, different like whatever contributions to the environment or gardening or some kind of help, like there's something
Well,
that
the
people
social
can
workers are
offer.
really weaponized against the
Mm.
clients. One thing that I noticed when my son has profound autism, profound. So it's very hard for him to do information exchange. He just has a communication exchange. All of it's very challenging. So in grade 9 in Alberta, we started planning for this process. for him to eventually transition into AISH. So we took 4 years with that plan. By the time we actually got on AISH, it was in the first maybe 3 months of COVID. And the social workers, as soon as we started having conversations with them, was as soon as they started attacking us.
Yeah.
They were telling us that he didn't qualify, that we didn't have the right paperwork in order, even though everything was done. It just didn't stop. At one point, I said, well, it was done because you called me in December and told me it was done and you look forward to it. They had to go back and timestamp that call. That's how desperate
You
they
said
were.
autism, eh?
Yeah.
There's something called a DTC. Did you get that?
Mm,
We just
can you
got
be
honest to God, like we just got a reimbursement from the federal government of like
a DTC? So isn't that in the first 5 years or something like that?
um I'm not sure how many years it is. I would have to check with my wife.
Um, I'll check it out. My son was diagnosed when he was 3, and we did get a disability tax benefit that
Yeah,
covered the
that's what I
time.
remember.
They back paid us for the 3 years that he wasn't diagnosed, where we needed extra supports and things like that to help support him, and that was very helpful.
Yeah, that's what we just got. We just got like
It's
I
a
don't know.
great benefit.
It was like $7,000 or something.
Yeah, it's really important.
Katie, I sent you something that was from the town hall last night that I did attend
Okay.
for like.
Email.
Okay, yeah. No, I just wanted to make. I didn't know if you got it, so I just thought I'd give it
Yeah.
to you
No,
just in
thank
case.
you.
Yeah,
Is
we're
there
still
anything
waiting
else
on
you
more
want to
money.
share on the town hall?
There was a lot of people with grave concerns. I mean, the MLA was really awesome about it, and they said they won't have any information till about March, but it does go into effect in 2026. And I couldn't stay around for a long time because it was just overwhelming, and I was just not feeling good. But from the gist of it is they want us to talk to our MLAs, which is fine. But my Emily is conservative. She's for this. So how am I supposed to feel comfortable talking about this with someone who is okay with this? Because my Emily and my MP are all conservative.
I
Because you
think
have to get
that's
voting groups.
I
You have to assemble people.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's where we roll into that conversation where here we are. Someone says, so what do we need to do to start getting these corporate, we got to protest. We
Yeah.
have to be willing to either get out there, and if we can't get out there for multiple different reasons, then we have to align together and have, you know, different kinds of protests, whether it's with our dollar, whether it's blacking out social media for a day, whether it's a no shop kind of thing. There's a
But
few different ways to approach it.
if you showed up, like let's say like Smarshy had a Facebook group dedicated to this and in the localized in that exact area, and Smarshy had somebody that was willing to put in a little bit of work alongside them and was able to hand out pamphlets and stuff like that and get like like-minded people together in order to engineer a block, like a voting block that says this is our core interest, and start to put pressure on that way. I think that's a way of engineering kind of like the momentum and the confidence that somebody needs to stand up to, a conservative stronghold, where you're a leftist, an opposition to that.
Yeah, oh
And
yeah, definitely.
you could consider a content campaign where a bunch of people come together and they kind of create a certain amount of content and we build on that, like a train of some sort, where we're like, hey, Danielle, you know what I mean? And kind of a call out. Um,
Oh, I almost
you
wrote her a
need
letter the other
creative
day.
people. Go ahead, sorry.
I almost wrote her an email the other day. Not a very nice one, but I had to put my phone down and walk away.
Good for you. That's it. Hey, Angela, how are you?
I'm fine. How are
Thanks for
you?
joining us. Thank you so much. And we gotta make those phone calls, and we have to be prepared to fight that fight. And it's so darn uncomfortable, but we gotta be willing to get uncomfortable.
Addicted makes a really good point. Like, I know, like, for myself, the option of going out and protesting isn't an option.
Okay, so I know a lot of friends like that, and because I work in this community, one of the things I've often thought is, what if we did a day or two where we all locked down at home? COVID hurt a lot of those
Yeah.
big politicians at first. I mean, what if we all just stayed home for a couple days and we didn't go out shopping and we didn't go to get any makeup and we didn't, pardon?
The Chow movement in Europe, it started in Germany. Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Bella Ciao, Ciao, Ciao. And there's like, 1,000 people like singing it in like their town square.
Oh, I love that.
It's a TikTok thing. Like you can look it up, Bella Ciao, Germany, and then you
Okay.
can see the duets of the other cities around Europe that have done it, and it's a movement that stands up against. Please forgive me if I'm wrong, but in my understanding, it's actually Donald Trump that and right wing autocratic governments that are taking over. If I'm not mistaken, that's what their movement is about. It's called Bella Ciao.
I love how Donald Trump. Oh, sorry, Angela. Did you want to speak?
I just want to get more a little bit informed of what you were talking about so that I can just follow in on the conversation.
We're
Okay.
talking about how the UCP government in Alberta sucks, and they're trying to take away disability from people who absolutely need it. Now, am I not saying that there are people that are abusing the system? No, there absolutely are people that are doing that, but not everybody is doing that, and that's what people have to stop looking at. Is you know,
I think that's a smoke and mirrors thing. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Where they're like, there are
that's what I'm saying.
people abusing the system when the only people that are abusing the system are people like Danielle Smith that are taking
That's what I'm saying.
kickbacks. They're the
But
ones saying
that's
people abuse the system, but it's not you, Smarsh, and it's not you, Katie, and it's not you, Angela.
no, but this is what I'm saying. When people look at it and say, "Oh, there's all these people that are taking advantage of the system. They're trying to lump everybody in." That's what I'm saying. It's not everybody lumped into one group.
No.
You know,
Yeah.
the same thing is that in Alberta, it's really something else. Like, 'cause I'm following Alberta, right? And I'm from Ontario. So Doug Ford has apparently hired some American company that's supposed to try to enforce people on Ontario disability to get off of it. Now, because of everything that's been going on right now, some people are kind of blind to the fact that this is a reality of what's happening in Ontario as well.
Yeah. Doug Ford and Danielle Smith. It's like they, in my opinion, all I see is them trying to break Canada. They want to break Canadians.
Hmm.
They want to break Canada. This is their job, and they are going hard, hard, hard.
See, here's the thing. Is that why I saw Doug Ford's video for saying "God bless America" and "God bless Canada"?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that made me throw up in my mouth when I saw that.
I mean, definitely the American citizens, are like I echo what Justin Trudeau said. Like, we don't want to punish anybody, and we don't want to appear to be the people that are trying to punish anyone. We are going through this with them, not against them. This is the president of the United States that's doing this to both countries. And I think that's what we need to illustrate in order to drive that wedge between common sense conservatives and the far right idealists that are
Tell me a
infiltrating.
common sense conservative you know.
I was just gonna say that.
Not
Well, there's a
I
anymore.
lot
don't
of
think one
cognitive
exists in
dissonance.
Canada anymore. I
There's
don't.
a lot of cognitive dissonance
It's kind of ironic because I'm sorry.
I go ahead, Angela.
At one point, we did have that. I mean, up to the point when Patrick Brown was the opposition conservative, I supported him. I supported his views, and I'm not a conservative, but I supported it. But then when he got, the situation that happened, right? And so then you replaced him with Doug Ford. He's in line, I'm sorry, with Danielle Smith.
Absolutely.
Someone just made a
Absolutely.
someone just made a comment. Everything the UCP has touched needs to be investigated. No, everything the UCP has touched has turned to crap. Our medical, our schools, our employment. Alberta, I learned yesterday that Alberta is the only province that has the highest unemployment rate.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Oh, hospital wait times, like mismanagement of funds, education systems that aren't getting the money, like,
But
Infrastructures that are
man,
not supposed to be.
I looked it up the other day, right? Like, because am I the one echoing or am I echoing off someone?
I don't know what's
Everyone
going
Because
on.
seems to
I'm
be
echoing
buzzing.
off someone.
Can everybody mute their mics except for the person that's not talking? And then we'll see what happens if it cleans up a little. Okay, now talk, Happy.
Test, test, test.
Okay, it's a little better. Sometimes it gets staticky when we all have our mics off or
So I was
on at the same
exploring,
time.
like, how thank you. Sorry about that. It was kind of like just something in the tickling the back of my brain that wouldn't let me continue.
Right?
Well, no, it's good. Uh, so you know how you have conversations that are driven around a growth mindset and not a blame mindset. You kind of are trying to figure out solutions. And one of the spitballing solutions that I was talking about was actually with Chat GPT and DeepSeek, DeepSeek, which is actually amazing to use. It's really fun. Was to create three different cities across Canada: Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta. High-tech cities, top of the line, like Singapore, with like all these transit systems linked with hyperloop or a speed bullet train like Tokyo, like across Canada. It's like, how much does that cost, right? And they're like, well, each city would cost $100 billion minimum, 100 to $500 billion. It's a lot of money, but you're like, how long would it take to build that city? And it's like anywhere from 15 years to 30 years. And you're like, how many jobs would that create? And they're like, well, for every different component of building a city is like thousands of jobs, right? Like, you have, like, just think of how many it takes to build a hospital or a school or all of these things, that institutions that you need to have a city, the housing, all of this stuff takes people with skilled trades to build these things. And I was like, this seems like a far better use of money than the hundreds of millions of dollars that we're spending on policing the poor or displacing the poor, or like continuing with this as gouging of the mortgage prices, like, or billions of dollars spent on engineering war machines. Like, this is a way that we can figure out a solution. They're going to get $1 billion in policing in Toronto alone for this year.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just doesn't make sense that we're spending the money on that instead of looking at engineering solutions for the future. So
Actually,
people,
respectfully, I disagree with you. I think when you're coming from a conservative mindset, it absolutely makes sense to police us and keep the middle class and the lower class. Or wait a minute, let's eliminate the middle class, keep everybody down, and keep policing everybody so they can stay in their comfortable, safe spaces. Right?
Right. But
you need a working class and an aristocratic class in that conservative mindset, and that you need to benefit off of one's labor in order to propel yourself to a certain level of success. I'm not denying that. I think that's obvious.
And
We need.
it just it bothers me that you look at the UCP government and
I
if you look at how much money they spend in Alberta,
love that
I think
class.
it was Calgary, there was supposed to be a new LRT station. They were all geared up and ready to make it, and then shit, Danielle took the money out of it, so now they have a half-made station as far as when I was reading. And I'm sitting there reading this, and I'm like, you absolutely bureaucratic morons. Why would you do that? Like, why would you give money to a city, a lot of money to a city in a province that you know you're going to pull out of? You know that's what you wanted to do. Oh, it was costing too much money. Oh, it was costing this. Everything you do in the government system is going to cost money. It has to be. And the one thing I heard or I found out was Danielle Smith is selling our healthcare to the highest bidder, not
Absolutely.
not the most qualified people. And this is why people are losing healthcare and people are unaliving at an astronomical rate in Alberta. Everyone's like, if you want to go to Alberta, you might as well plan your funeral now. That's
Alberta has to get savage
cut
a little
out.
bit. I don't know if that's the right word or is it radical.
No, that word is
Pardon?
mm,
That's a bad word. So
yeah,
they've
that is
got to
a
get
very
radical. They've got to
no.
get
We
radical.
we have to we have to get radical or
You're going to
um.
have to get radical like gremlins.
It's gonna be Gremlin style because I can't go another 6 months with this woman in office. I just can't.
We
I'm
need to
not
get
gonna make it.
organized and realistic and move forward with change. And change is only engineered from within the system. And if you want to tear down the system, you need to be part of it. You know,
Well,
Yeah, just
Nenchi's. Oh, wait, Katie wanted to speak. We haven't heard much from
No,
Katie. Sorry.
no, it's okay. Go ahead. It's there's a lot of crap going on. It's a little hard to talk about right now, so.
Yeah. Smarsh, I cut you off.
took money out of emergency services from uh when Jasper caught fire, and even Sparkle was like just hit the nail on the head. She promised money to help rebuild because that's what she wanted to do, and then she reneged on the deal. So basically, she gave money. Said she was going to give money. Turned around and said, "People, Jasper, yeah, you can go fuck yourself. We're not helping you."
To me, it
They,
feels like she lit Jasper on fire herself.
she did. She literally did because she took
She,
money out of the budget for the
if she
fire
did, she definitely
responses.
poured gasoline on it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, she is yeah, yeah. And I don't know what the answer is in Alberta, but you got to stay active. You got to get out there. Um, and it's a hard fight in Alberta because you're fighting against the oil and gas gods. And that's who
I
she's
will, I
aligning
will,
themselves with.
I will fight tooth and nail for this country, making no mistakes, but
Yeah.
I am not selling my morals or my integrity for anybody. And everybody's like, oh, what if I gave you $50,000 to switch your vote to conservative? You can take that $50,000 and shove it. I will not ever be paid out for my integrity.
Well, not everybody's as easy as Danielle Smith, right? Like she's like Cheese Whiz. Peanut butter, at least it has protein. Cheese Whiz is kind of plasticky and it smears across and Hey Radical, how you doing?
Not so bad, not so bad. Hello, everybody.
Any thoughts?
Uh, I think all of this, my personal belief is all of this can be boiled down to two simple concepts: minority rule, and the only thing preventing minority rule right now is the government. So, at the end of the day, everything that we are seeing, including Danielle Smith in Alberta, and in particular Trump right now, is the dismantling of government. Business is well aware that the only damn thing that is preventing them from basically completely controlling the population is the government. So all of the things that we are seeing has one directive in mind: to switch the balance of power end the cash flow into the government and not allow the government to dictate to the business community what's happening. Uh, I mean, at the end of the day, one of the biggest problems that I have with the anti-government stance is government, yes, people that are on some broad end of mental health spectrums are going to go into government, but ultimately these people are going to be drawn to business and other ventures like that because it fills that empty part of their soul. They're not going to get that from servicing the people. They are selfish to the core, and the business community is filled with these people. These types of sociopathic personalities understand the only thing in their way is the government.
You're so right. Luna Willow, how are you this evening?
I'm all right. I'm listening, and I agree with the previous gentleman absolutely, and I think we have to look at. I have multiple points, by the way. Uh, he just brought up something that's actually in my heart and soul. Is we have the wrong politicians going into provincial and federal government, and you know, and I agree with him to a certain extent. But I'm gonna, when it comes to Jasper and whatnot, and don't forget that, like, I'm from BC, and BC's been burnt down and burnt down, and I've been trying to deal with the Lytton issue and everything else. My company, because we do basically zero emission and fire sustainability, and, you know, like you look at Lytton, like how many years has it been? And there's minimal reconstruction going on. There was $70 million allocated by the federal government. I guarantee you, other than the indigenous population, the communities around there, none of it has ever been spent. And the one of the biggest hurdles is insurance on homeowners, okay, not able to
Yes.
collect their insurance, but
Yes.
also the added cost for archaeology. So as a homeowner that wants to rebuild, you have to have an arc on site. And that's another $80,000 on top of your construction costs.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the biggest hurdles.
It's
And
expensive.
it's very expensive. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with it, but the point is, why does the homeowner have to pay for that? On to rebuild, when there's this big pot of money sitting there that hasn't even, well, they didn't even know how to spend it, really. And if you drive through Lytton right now, it's, other than the cleanup that they've completed, there's very little going on to basically develop that community in a proper manner. Don't forget, a lot of people don't realize historically Lytton's actually been burnt down 4 times. And a lot of people
Yeah.
don't know that, right?
So, one of the things I think in Alberta that is a little disturbing to me that might be a little bit different than Linton is the fact that Danielle Smith has agreed to all of these mining things that are right up there in Jasper. And, it's just amazing how suddenly Jasper burnt down and now there's work camps popping up in its place. Marsh?
No, no, I agree with you, but I also went. I also went to. I went there on my way through because I have I have other projects in Ontario, and I
Yes.
was meeting with some business owners on a rebuild, and they're saying, "Well, can we start next year? Can we start?" And I said, "Really? You haven't even looked at the cleanup. There's no, insurance hasn't even been looked at." I said, it's not going to be cheap. And if you guys have been to Jasper, you know, I think Lytton is a really good thing. And don't forget, we have, you know, there's so much going on. If they think they can rebuild in 24 months, it's not going to happen, you
No.
know. And certainly everybody's blaming the federal government for improper fire management and all this kind of stuff. And you know what?
Right.
I'm not disagreeing, absolutely. But this is why we have to start looking at rebuilding communities, that are responsible with respect to fire management and in zero emission type of constructions. And that really is, oh my gosh, you're gonna get me going on my podium, and I don't want to take
Okay.
up everybody's time. And I've seen it with Lytton. I've seen it in everywhere in British Columbia. Like
Yeah,
well,
and that's the thing, right? Willow,
well,
you are absolutely
it's so frustrating as a developer when you see 80-year-old technology going back and into a rebuild, right?
right.
Are
But
you
you can't
joking
use
me?
that. But you can't use that 80-year-old technology in a
You
rebuild.
can't.
You can't. You can't because it's, well, one, it's outdated. It's not going to give you a actual accuracy of that, and it's just it drives me nuts that this. Oh my. Oh,
Oh, you're going to
I
get on
have
your
to.
podium like me. I'm very
I think
passionate.
there's really amazing,
I have
innovative
to.
technologies that are coming out that is going to
But
help.
they don't want to spend the money on it. That's the problem, Happy.
What do you mean?
They
They're
have
spending.
spent.
It's a competitive industry. It's not a government job to do this. This is part of capitalism and part of like the symbiotic relationship we have with that. With capitalism is that the government funds certain ventures, but
Mhm.
we've seen innovation for construction, for building materials, and for 3D printing, right? So like,
Pappy, can I get you to pause just for a second? Can you lock that in your brain there for a second? And I'm just going to do a plug for Beaver Politics. We're on 6 nights a week now, soon to be 7. And tapping is clapping and sharing is caring. Get this out there if you can. And go ahead, Happy.
you're right, like we're underfunding these kinds of innovations, but like the more we get together, the more we have like-minded people pushing similar ideas, like trying to come up with new ways to facilitate affordable housing or to accommodate that or attenuate the problem. The future does look pretty promising. Um, Maybe not in the next 2 to 3 years, right? But like, you know, the more we learn, right, the faster it comes. So I know that insulation and stuff is a big issue in Canada, and electricity and getting things set up is expensive, but doesn't mean you can die.
Yeah.
Well, why don't
I
we
mean,
use? Sorry.
Okay, if I can get everybody to mute your mics, and then Luna Willa can go ahead and ask a quick question, and then we'll see who wants to talk next.
Well, the irony is there's technologies that's been around for thousands of years, and it's interesting, like Ram Earth housing and stuff that they're getting back into now. Ram Earth is absolutely amazing. I mean, it's not 100-year life cycle. It's like when you go to Europe and places like that, and and with the stone and everything else. But Ram Earth is one of the greatest innovations for sustainable housing, and particularly for fire and well, even seismic, because we have to worry about seismic, right? And and I'm not advocating Ram Earth because my technology is very different, but I really advocate because it's a cheaper cost, particularly in areas like British Columbia where we have a lot of 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 clay, dense, and sand that we could utilize for Ram Earth, and it's not that difficult. Like really, you can set up a on site, and you could build a house in probably 2 months, 3 months, right? And
People who don't know
well,
what
not
rammed
including
earth
not
is,
including
right?
finishing, not
We, we,
including finishing. I'm just saying main structure,
we
right?
should just let people know that rammed earth construction, by definition, is the process of ramming a mixture of natural aggregates like gravel, sand, silt, and clay into a formwork to create solid walls. When the earth is dry, the formwork is removed to reveal the walls, right? So it's kind of like a Portuguese, Spanish, and French style.
Well,
Oh
that's
yeah.
one aspect, but there's also a company that does ram earth bricks, and that can be on
Yeah,
site.
so like it goes into a mold. So you're taking a bunch
Absolutely.
of stuff and putting it into any shape that you want, if it's a brick or if it's a wall. But you're right; it seems to have like a place. I'm not sure how that would work over here with insulation and stuff like that and framing
Well,
it in.
it depends on the thickness of the walls, but don't forget, because it's rammed earth, we're looking at the heat retention, within that,
Well,
you
you
know,
probably just frame into the ramders from the inside to like.
yes, yeah, and it's actually, you don't even have to do any fitting, like just in a rammed earth process, they're beautiful. Like you don't have to do any interior. You can just have this, you can add color, you can add everything into the ram earth, and it's absolutely amazing.
Oh,
But
here's
as
a
we're
so
talking about this, we're not talking about tiny homes or anything like that.
yeah, but the
That's
rammed earth
No,
could be
no,
used
we're
for
not.
tiny home frames. So like that's the whole technology he's talking about is like it's like you can make these walls any size that you want.
mm.
So you can use this technology to frame tiny homes and build them pretty quickly, like because you're using molds. So like
Oh,
you
okay.
would use the same mold, right, kind of thing, and you would have 1,000 walls that are all the same, and you could have like 200 homes. And like I think that's the kind of the issue, the idea. And there's actually a component on insulation here. I'll probably read about it a little bit later, so we're not boring everybody. But there's it seems like the people selling it have a good sales pitch here. So it
So as we're
sounds
talking about housing, has anybody heard what happened in Toronto over the tiny home issue today?
tiny home issue.
Well, there was a fella that was making these really cute tiny homes. He had attached them to like bikes, like an e-bike style, and it was like a little kind of trailer mounted on them.
Mm-hmm.
And people could live in there and they were warm in there. It provided everything you would need. And Toronto doesn't want to leave any space for them. And I think are talking about telling them to get out. So I'm just wondering if anybody, Sean's asking about it, if anybody's heard anything about the tiny home issue in Toronto.
Hi, I'm
Hi, how are
just
you?
good, thanks. And you? I'm Ro. I'm from Alberta. Um, he got a cease and desist letter and was pretty well told they would scrap them if
The
he
trailers.
continued. Yes,
Ridiculous.
it was on here, and I think the 5 o'clock news. Yeah, he has. Tomorrow is when we have to get out, call. If you can call your local MLA, or if we all fall in the Ontario MLAs. I don't know any of the city council, so I can't speak on that. But if we can find MLAs in Ontario to call and complain that they're not doing their due diligence of getting housing because there's no room in the shelters and people are passing away.
So they'd rather somebody sleep with a rock than have a shelter. And
Yeah,
they've done,
because
this young man has done more than almost every other province across Canada has done for the unhoused.
yeah, because they're eyesores and they don't bring value to property. That
They
is what it
aren't
is.
our eyesores. When you see
I
what he
know
did,
that. You know that. But this is what the government and the politicians feel, right? It's again, it's capitalism, consumerism. They're not selling as much as they're not making anything. If they're not making anything off of it, it's not okay.
And
Angela,
sadly, it's a eugenics problem because
um,
a lot of the people out on the streets have mental illness, disabilities, and are people of color. They're
Did you
veterans with
hear?
PTSD. So it's
okay,
a
I'm just going to
eugenics.
let Angela speak for a second because she was trying to interject. Go ahead, Angela.
Says exactly what's happening in Ontario. So Doug Ford, when they approached him about the issue, he said maybe they should go out and get a job. Has he realized a lot of these people are working? Does he realize these people are seniors? Does he realize that these you can't just walk to a place and hand in an app, whatever. You need internet, you need supports, you need this. It's unbelievable how cruel and discriminative they are towards people who are living on the streets. And
Can I make a comment? May I?
Sure.
There's actually it was actually on CBC. I think it was 3 months ago. There in Vancouver, there are nurses living in their cars and vans because they can't afford to have housing. So these are not every, don't point the finger at, disenfranchised people, or whatever we want to call it. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but there are people that are hardworking and professionals that are living on the street,
Yep.
and that's probably Toronto as well, and it's certainly in Vancouver, absolutely.
It's across Canada. I work in a small town in
Archie
the
sounds back
boonies.
again.
Okay, let's all mute our mics. It's across, Luna Willa, can you mute
Yeah,
your mic? Thanks. It's across Canada. I live in a small town, and I can tell you that even people transiting through to get to Vancouver, there's a lot of people that are homeless, people that have lost their houses. The houses aren't being replaced when they're burnt down, when pipes break, anything like that. I'm just going to finish Angela's thought, then we're going to go to Happy, and then we're going to go to Smarshy. Sorry, Angela, go ahead.
that's true because the provincial government, right? All your premiers are responsible for affordable housing. So what happened here in Hamilton? I don't know if you heard about this. So they wanted to, they picked a certain area, a parking lot in Hamilton, and they wanted to build affordable housing there, right? Like it would have been like a bachelor, whatever. That whole area fought against it. Fought against it. And but the mayor used her powers to, the powers that Ford gave, so that it would go through. But how can you not want to give people a place to live? I don't get it. We're not. I live in affordable housing. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to do anything. We work. We go to school. We have, we're out in the community. We just want to be accepted.
100%, Angela.
But
I don't
why?
think much to ask, especially after the generations of paying into a tax system that is supposed to be beneficial to people. Like, we're not putting money into a system to propel already rich people into more wealth. What we're supposed to be doing is engineering a system that elevates people out of systemic issues, right? Like continually suppressing and persecuting the poor people of our nation, so I think it's easier to put in policies and umbrella systems that protect Canadians and ensure a livable income for those who need it. I think it's better. It's easier.
You're right. Smarshy? Happy, do you mind muting?
I was just trying to get out of a comment I was gonna make, but there's two things in the comments. Someone says it's unattainable to do UBI, which it's not. I think Canada can
No,
do
it's
it.
not.
It's
We did
very
it
much
during COVID.
exactly, and don't get me started where that all that came from. The thing is, the thing that made me really, really shake my head at some of the people in Parliament in Canada was the MP, I think it was, or the one of the politicians in um oh God, where was it? When Manitoba said like, oh, how about we just set our polar bears free and let them get rid of the homeless problem. This is a man in power saying that he would rather get rid of the problem by using polar bears than getting off his ass and taking a pay cut and giving some of his constituents a freaking house to live in. Like, come on. Use your brain, people.
Meanwhile, Pierre Poilievre's place is how big
Right.
on the
You
taxpayer's dime?
right. Not to mention the satin sheets he's sleeping on that we pay for. You know, the dinners that he throws, and it's not unsustainable. We're not saying that it's not going to take work to do the UBI, but it's the best option Canada has to save us, to allow us to afford the right that we have to housing. A
Yeah.
job is a job is a privilege. Housing is a right. People get that
Oh,
mixed up all the time,
I love
and
the way you
really,
just
really.
said that.
Well, if you think it's the worst option, then Wicked Witch, I don't care. That is your opinion. But when push comes to shove, a job is a privilege. A house is a right.
I agree
So,
with you, Smarsh. Can we addicted to sorry, you're next?
Um,
Hi, how are you?
good, thanks. You?
Good, thanks.
Okay, I have a few questions. First, to the guy that's from Lytton, did you
Hmm.
say you're a builder?
Luna Will
Two, to the
Luna Willow?
is that what his name is?
Yeah. Okay, keep going through your question and then we can answer it at the end.
Okay, I'm asking if he's a builder, and if he is a builder, does he build for low income or does he build for the higher ups? I'm trying to be polite here. Then, as for the person in the chat, I think they're just a troll trying to get us to react. And at this point, I'm in my get a fuck off life because
yes.
I'm in menopause stage and they can just fuck it off. And that's all I could say about it because they're
Hmm.
not actually here to learn, they're not here to listen, they're here to say
Yeah. They're
against
there to
Trudeau like
gaslight
he's still
us.
in power. Like,
It's hard. You've got to feel a little bad for him. How are you going to find a whole personality in like 15 minutes?
Well, how are you
and
gonna make?
then
May I respond to the question?
Sure.
can I just finish?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Um, oh crap. Okay, can I come back after? I
You
forgot.
bet. You bet.
Thanks.
Luna Willow?
No, our plan for Lytton was well, is multi-dimensional with respect to business reclamation and also low-income housing. And we did work with the First Nations, the indigenous populations on that as well. So we do some high end for sure, and that's all market driven, right? But we do absolutely. And my background is actually in low income and also indigenous housing, and so yeah. So I really appreciate her question because everybody assumes that developers are always money grabbing and looking for profit margins and all this kind of stuff. And but we have to, at least pay our people, right? And it's very difficult when you see, oh my gosh, how could I say it? Uh you know what? I can't even comment right now because I've seen so much in my life that's really, really sad. Like the big multinational corporations, that control development and whatnot, particularly in Vancouver and a lot of the city areas, right? That control all development. And I'm not going to mention any names because I don't want to get in trouble. And I've seen it. It's just atrocious. And, what we do is on an individual project by project basis. And you know it's really difficult and our margins are very small on what we actually make, and a lot of people don't realize that even to get contractors, it's so difficult today to even get contractors to commit to projects. Like we turned down 5 projects this year alone because of what's going on in the U.S. Because we mostly work on fixed contract pricing. I'm not sure anybody in this panel knows what that means. It's not cost plus, and where a lot of the bigger developers work on cost plus, so they can bill the government. Oh, I have a change order. We've got to re-engineer this, so it's cost plus. As us as a small environmental company, we have to work on fixed contract pricing. So that means if we screw up, we eat the price, right? So I hear this lady, talking about, if you want to work, who are you building for? Well, that's right. You have to target your market, but you know, oh gosh, oh God, you're gonna go. I really don't want to go on my podium right now,
Then
and
don't.
I really don't because I think a lot of people already know what I was gonna say.
Wasn't exactly my question. I worded it wrong.
I mean, the profit that you're talking about and the money to the labor that you're talking about could be like, government funding, right? Like that's usually like what we're talking about when we're talking about socialized housing would be like a private entity applying for, say, like, hey, I am going to build houses here. This is the land I plan to build it on. I accept the 30% affordable housing clause. Now I want my government money. And that's how you pay people. So it's not like it's not profit driven, anyways, for that builder, right? So when you're talking about building houses through government funding, that's kind of what we're talking. Well, I am talking about, anyways.
Okay, Smarsh.
One thing to say to the women in the comments and in the panel. If you are voting conservative, I have one big sentence thing to say to you. Say goodbye to what you think you have freedom of now. If he gets in, because you can say hello to the Handmaid's Tale. Handmaid's Tale was not supposed to be a blueprint for our lives. It's just what the conservatives want. So again, vote against your best interest. That's what you're gonna get, and don't complain to
Ask
people
them.
when that's yeah.
They
Ask
banned
them
that
what
book in
color their
Florida.
dress is gonna be.
They
Yeah.
banned that book in Florida.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if it's just
But
Florida, but like
in
that book
but
is
happy
banned.
in Alabama or Arkansas, I can't remember which it was. They banned Charlotte's Web because there's talking animals and it's too satanic.
Freeland as a leader. That's what I was discussing with my father today, actually. My 84-year-old new NDP voter, thanks to yours truly. He went a little too far left, in my opinion, but whatever. That's fucking his problem. But he's a career government guy who went from hard conservative to NDP. Um, and we were talking about the liberals and their chances at winning, and he was talking about Freeland, who he really likes. He met her, has a picture with her. It's an amazing picture. And
And you should tear it up.
I like Freeland too. I like, she has done, and she feels just the same way as Justin Trudeau does about
No,
Canada.
she doesn't. She put Canadians at such a great risk, all for her ego. All for her
I
ego.
don't
And at
know.
the same time she did this, Happy,
Maybe she
she
believes it
had
though.
she had Doug Ford on the phone. Like, I just questioned her sanity at that very moment. Like, this was all bets. I've lost every bit of trust in her. I think it's absolutely the Liberals' worst game that they even have her sitting at their table right now. That she
Well,
can
I think you
even
have to
sit at the
respect the
table is
voters.
terrible. I
You have to
cannot
respect the
respect her.
voters.
What did
The
she do?
voters. You have to respect the voters. Like the voters voted for her. She has a right
Okay.
We
to
voted
represent
for
them
her and then she trashed the party. So,
they
yeah,
voted
we
her
didn't
out.
vote for her to trash the party. We voted
But we
for
didn't
her
vote
to
for her.
serve Canadians.
Just her,
We
the only
voted for the
people that
Liberal
voted for
Party
her
to
was
conserve Canadians.
the only people that vote for her in her riding and then she's appointed by the prime minister.
Happy, you don't need to explain it to me. I totally understand Canadian politics. And we
Yeah, I
voted for
know,
the Liberal Party and we voted for Justin Trudeau. And we were all, many Liberals were behind her before she took the actions that she did.
I definitely think that it hurt the party with the action she took.
Absolutely.
I don't disagree with you there. What I'm saying
I
is,
think
it's
he's
possible that
explaining it
she
for
actually
people
believes
outside of
she's acting in
Ontario.
the best interest of
May I ask
Canadians.
a question?
I don't know. I think it's possible that she thinks that she's acting in the best interest of Canadians. That's what I
Fair.
said. That's all.
I'll accept that.
That's
Fair.
all I said. I didn't want to, be like, I support her just because, but like,
Happy, she just gets
Okay,
me a
I
little
have to
hot.
jump in here. I have to jump
Fair.
in here because questioning her sanity is very ableist, and
Fair. Fair.
and
I am so
women are
hot
the
under the
ones.
collar when it comes to
And I
her.
get it, you're hot under the collar, but as women, that's kind of like a smack against another woman because we are the ones that were put in the asylum by the men just so they could get a divorce. We were the ones that were forced to get a lobotomy so
But
men
she's
could
the
get a
one that
divorce.
just put all women at risk by the
Oh,
actions
I'm
she
not
took.
defending her. I'm
So,
not defending
so I
Freeland at
mean, I
all.
might have made a poor choice,
I
but
will.
this isn't a slap against all women. This was a slap
No, the
against
ableist,
her
But you're putting, okay,
directly.
but Miss Radical,
I understand.
I think what you're not understanding is using that term has been used against.
I already said I used the wrong
Okay,
terms, Marcy.
I was just explaining why.
Yeah.
I'm not defending Freeland at all. I'm on your side. I'm on
Yeah.
your side with that. I'm just
I've
calling
already
out the
said I
comment.
used the wrong word.
May I ask something?
Sure.
And particularly, it goes against Happy because I think he's, and yourself because I think, and maybe some of the other panel. So Carney today announced, I think it was in Vancouver, that he would call an election immediately. If he became prime minister.
He'd
Is
have
that?
to.
Do you think that's a good move? I'm
He would
not
have
sure.
to though because he's not elected. So like in order to gain the confidence of Canadians, if Carney was selected to be the leader of the Liberal Party, that would kind of force him to run an election because he is not an elected representative. So I could see how he would say that. I would have to hear it and see it myself to really delineate further than that.
Well, what was in the news? He said they need a strong mandate. I know the Liberals have gone up in the polls in Ontario, and I believe
The
I think
best.
Carney's going to be running in where is it? Somewhere in Western Canada. That's not
Edmonton.
typically liberal. So is that a smart move? Anyway, I'm just throwing it out there for the panel, and because we all know that Carney's going to be the next liberal leader, obviously, right?
Okay. Radical, what do you think?
Well, we kind of jumped around quite a bit, but like as far as the Krista Freeland thing, at the end of the day, her timing stank because her timing could right very well have ended up in an election that put Pierre Poilievre in our PM seat. And if anybody's been paying attention to what's happening in the States, that is the game plan for here in Canada. So, whatever personal opinions about who and what Krista Freeland is, her actions were if you weren't looking from the outside, you would almost think that it was deliberate because I'm not sure she could have done anything else that could have put the Liberal Party in more jeopardy at that moment.
Interesting. Yeah, and I agree with you. You know that Luna Willow, I think what when you talk about Mark Carney saying that we'd have to roll into an election right away. Well, yeah, wait a second, Happy speaking. What do you want to say, Happy?
That's not what he said.
What is he saying?
He said it's a very fluid situation. The discussions with the Americans, the demands of the Americans, at least the president's change on the almost daily basis, as do the timelines. He said nothing about calling an election. Said he may at the very most.
But wouldn't we have to, as soon as Carney gets
But
elected, if he got elected Liberal leader, right?
yeah,
Then we would, as soon as that happened, we would roll into a federal election for Canada.
I think he would call by-elections as a federal leader.
By-election? Okay.
He
No,
would
no.
have to call
Actually, today
I think he would have to call by-elections on a couple of different ridings, and then he would have to parachute into one of them.
Oh,
no.
interesting.
Actually, Carney said today he would call an election to get a strong mandate
I'm
from the
reading it from
Indigenous
the
public.
National Post.
No, it was in Vancouver. He announced it.
Yeah, I'm reading the National Post coverage of that announcement.
Yeah.
Luna Willow, can you send me that article? Would you mind tagging me in it?
No, I can't because I don't have enough followers.
Oh, that's too bad.
To send an article?
No, I can't send anything. I don't have enough followers. I only have like 80.
If you add Mrs. Radical,
I tried to find the most
um,
far right.
I think Happy can find it, right? Happy.
I'm on the National Post right now.
Yeah, I think it was on CBC. I was listening to CBC radio today, and I think it was on there because I know he was in Vancouver and he made that statement. I could be wrong, but anyway.
So anyone else have any conversation they want to start?
yeah, I just want to say I love your spiciness, Miss Radical.
I'm sorry, I'm feisty. As soon as
Who
it
said
was
that?
pointed out that I shouldn't have said that, and you both are absolutely right.
No, 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 no. We
Hmm.
understand that. It's just my biggest concern is living in Alberta, being a centrist. There's that echo again. It's scratching my ear.
Okay, everybody mute their mics except for the person that's speaking, please. Just then that it lessens that echo on our ears. How's
I
that
mean,
smush?
yeah, it's good. We have to take into consideration that not all of us are going to agree on everything, and we can have discussions. And I love this, that even though we don't always agree, we can come to a consensus that, our opinions are our opinions, and everybody's got
It's that
more
hot
this
thing.
and
I
that.
mean, I
It
don't
is. It
like
very
to
much
use
is.
ableist language. I find that it falls out of my mouth when, like, I'm that child of the 80s. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
So it's
No.
that quick slap back, and then you say it, and then you're like, oh,
Yeah,
did I
it's
just
just,
say that? Right?
but we're going to take a look at it like this, Miss Radical. It's been in our language for
Hmm.
so long. We don't realize when we're saying it when we say it, and then we're like, oh, that's not what I should have said. I should
Yeah.
reiterate. But again, I love this conversation. But living in the middle of Alberta and being a leftist with socialist and anarchist views, everybody is on my ass about it.
Yeah.
Everybody's on my ass about who I'm going to vote for, and I say, really? Honestly and truly, it's none of anyone's concern as long as I vote and I vote properly. And they look at me and they're like, well, how can you have socialist views with anarchist points? I'm like, it's very well possible. I'm not very much for socialism as the next person. But if it's done correctly, I think we can flourish. Just like I believe the UBI is a good thing. People in the panel or in the comments may not agree with me, but that's fine. And I don't know. My brain is going 6 ways to Sunday, and it's like I can't stop it. My thoughts are just like popping out of left
I
field.
get that. Do you mind if I answer addicted bear? Sorry, addicted bear Rose.
Um,
Hi.
I love how passionate you are too. Like
Thank you.
being on these panels and being passionate and rallying for each other and educating each other. Like I'm learning, you're learning, everybody's learning on this panel.
Thank you. I
And I'm
appreciate that.
gonna really bug that guy about his building stuff. Because I'm sorry, but that place has gone crispy twice, so I kind of want to see it rebuilt with honor because the indigenous there have been hurt so many times by companies coming in. And I get you have to make a paycheck. But in my opinion, just me, morally taking advantage of Indigenous lands at in the year 2025 is not good. It's just not good.
I think so many people have made a paycheck off of housing and water and all of these things that were given to us attached to our birthright. Not my birthright, maybe more Smarshy's birthright. Um, that we all kind of, there's so many people that attach a price tag that we have to buy it from them. And it's so full of shit.
Right. And that's the thing. I just want to say this one thing before I bow out because I do. It's 7:30 and I do have to get some sleep.
Mhm.
Um, I can just say that with birthright citizenship and Trump coming in and saying what he said about the U.S. and doing the birthright citizenship and everything about, oh, they're not really citizens of this land, blah, blah, blah. I just feel that it's going to come out here because Polyev has also said that he wants to do birthright citizenship. And I hate to say it, but where are we going to go? Where are me and all the other indigenous people supposed to go? Are we supposed to go to the next street over? Like,
I don't
yeah,
know, honestly,
You
Smarsh.
said
It
that?
disturbs me greatly. My
Polyev said
husband,
that.
you would be greatly affected. My husband would be greatly affected. I know so many people that would be affected. It just keeps me awake at night.
It's
Yeah,
just a
Polyev,
testament of how we need to vote as a block, make sure that
yeah.
Can I make a
we don't
comment to
have,
this?
to make
Sorry,
Okay,
sure
I
we
just
didn't.
don't
wait,
have
please,
that
Luna.
No,
one.
I'm sorry, Happy. I really apologize.
That's fine. It's just like, instead of voting necessarily, uh, like the strategic voting policy, that Johnny was talking about that we've done before. We did it before, strategic voting. It went across Canada. Uh, and I think that's kind of imperative at this juncture as well. I think we're at a point where we need to um, work together more than any time before, as leftists or anti right wing. It's not even just leftist; it's right wing, right? Like far right.
I can't agree more with you. We're getting ready to sign off now. So, what I'd like to do is I'd like everybody in the panel to kind of leave off with a moment. I'll start with Luna Willow, and you can kind of direct your comments where you need to, and you can leave off with a final thought.
Actually, the lady that spoke before about Indigenous housing, I think the downfall in Indigenous housing was CMHC housing, and I put First Nations and homeowners at that point. Well, the First Nations in a debt crisis, and also I was involved, and I hate to admit it because I was a junior bureaucrat for the federal government at the time for the Davis Inlet relocation project that I worked on, and that was I don't want to swear, but you know what I'm going to say, was a nightmare. You could fill in the words in between I say that, right? And there was no consultation. They put little Brockville up there, and they put a 50-acre sewage lagoon right behind the school. Like, how crazy is that? So there's inappropriate consultation and planning that they ignored, and they're still ignoring Indigenous populations and housing and the housing needs. So this lady that talked before, I'm on board. That's why I left the federal government to get into what I'm doing to appropriate
Nice.
housing. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you so
Thank,
much.
thank you.
I gave you a follow. If you wanna, you tag me in any of your information and share it with me. You
I
can
already
just in
follow
the
you.
comment section add and then my name. Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Radical.
Uh, just as a closing thought on this, I think that we are going to continue to have issues with housing as long as two things are happening. First and foremost, using home ownership or home titlement in a corporate or business setting should be outlawed outright. Corporations and for profit should not be involved in housing whatsoever. Second of all, we're going to continue to have this problem because our gross domestic our evaluation as a country is partly based on the housing cost and housing principle. So how our country looks is almost is in large part determined by housing. If housing's down, the economy is down. If housing is great, then the economy looks great. And the business community is well aware that that's the case. So they are going to do everything to continue to propagate the housing prices because it reflects on their business values. And fundamentally, that is a systematic issue. And if we don't get rid of it, we're going to continue to have the same issues next year, the year after, and so on.
Thanks. Addicted Barrow. Did I say that right?
Yep, Addicted Bear Row.
Okay,
Or
good.
you could just call me Row next time.
Okay, thanks.
I'm starting to become a regular, not on purpose.
Yay.
I mainly speak up because with the truth and discord, we also have to start acknowledging the truth and reconciliation part of the agreements we have with Indigenous to start moving forward. And I'm just going to add in, if you're anywhere tomorrow, there is missing and murdered Indigenous women and two spirit walks going all over Canada. I'm not sure about the US. To show respect for the missing. So if you're in your, even if you go and just listen to the speakers, wherever you live, it would be amazing to me. And if you can't leave your house, put out a red dress in your window or a red shirt or something to show solidarity. Thank you.
Done. Thank you so much for sharing that today. I really appreciate that. Angela.
Hi. So here in Ontario we're having an election. It's not the election that was called by, you obviously know Doug Ford. In the midst of everything that's happening. Well, we were talking about housing. Well, I'm going to bring something up to everyone. Sorry. It's called Jake's House. It's a community residence for individuals with adults with disabilities. Well, this is what happened. The Ministry of Children, Youth, and Social Services is cutting funds. So therefore, they're going to be displaced. So, Ontario government, the ministry is cutting funds to Jake's House. This is one of the many stories that will be coming on the crisis in our system. Underneath Ford government, no one is protected. The most vulnerable people in our society are left behind. They're going to be displaced with nowhere to go. So that's something that people need to keep in mind when they're going out to vote. Because unfortunately, we're not hearing enough information because it's becoming a ghost election.
It's unbelievable, really.
Mm-hmm.
Good thoughts. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you for having me on here.
Happy.
Well, you know me.
You're never a loss for words.
Yeah, well, I think Angela's got me pretty choked up right now on that importance of the election in Ontario and the implications of voter apathy. And again, I think I just echo her sentiment on, what the immediate impact will be and who's going to feel it. Should they get another majority mandate? This is an opportunity for leftists in center left people and even some center right people might see a little a reason to support something against the conservative movement in Ontario, because the privatization of healthcare and education systems and stuff like that. And we should be making sure that we have a strategy to combat and ensure that it's not a majority at the very least.
Wow. Thanks for the conversation. Um, I think when I leave it off tonight, I'm kind of in the space of Ontario. Where the hell are you at? Where are you? Go vote. Get out there. Are you really going to do this again, like for a third time? Come on, Ontario. And with
Yeah.
that, I say thank you very much to everyone on our panel. I really appreciate all of you coming out tonight and coming out every night and showing up for Beaver Politics. Have a good evening, and we'll talk soon. Tomorrow night is Polly Talk with Nerdy. She's going to be on knocking it off, and you know that's more than 3 hours, less than 6 hours. Bring a snack.
Right on.
Have
Giddy
a
up.
good evening.
Good
Good
night,
night.
everybody. Thanks for coming to the show. We'll see you tomorrow night, and we'll see you on Radicalized on Saturday.
That's
Power
right.
to the people.
Take care.
Actually, good night to everyone. And I really love this because everybody has, oh my gosh, the diversity and the views were so refreshing. And I really appreciate And yep. And personally, you're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. 6 nights a week, soon to be 7. Hope to see you again.
Good
Have a
night,
good night, my
everyone.
friends.
Good night.